Hello, welcome back to the channel. I am pumped to be able to tell you that I am now the owner of the Canon R6. I still have the EOS R, that is now my B cam, and the R6 has become this all-round beast of an A cam for me. This was my first street photography outing. I met up with my good friend Stephen, who is also a photographer, and he also has an R6. He beat me to the punch and got it about, I want to say like 6 months ago. And I have been wanting this camera for so long. I still love the R, but the R6 just does feel like an upgrade to me. The autofocus is incredible, and it also has animal eye AF, which I definitely put to the test on this outing. So many dogs. So thank you for clicking on this video, and hopefully you enjoy coming along and chilling with me on this session. For this outing, I'm shooting on an 85mm lens. It's an f2 and RF native mount, and I love it so much. I love a good 85mm. Hiya. Looks very refreshing. Hi. Hello.
So Luce likes to swim.
Oh, hey.
Whereas Teal just likes.
Can I take some photos of her?
Of course.
Thank you. Hey.
Find sticks. Find them. No? You have to be careful because there's loads of spikes.
She's so obedient.
Well, she's yeah, she's good. And then this way, and this way.
I had so much fun taking these photos of these lovely dogs. I wasn't even using the animal IF, a missed opportunity, but the R6 nailed it anyway. Look at the detail in these shots, like look at the water particles here, it just captured everything so well. I had a high shutter speed, so it was able to kind of freeze all of that action there, but I was there for ages. I cut down that footage massively because you're not here to watch a video of me taking photos of dogs, you're here for a street photography video. But if you want to see me test out the animal IAF, let me know down below because I will happily take some photos of some animals to test that out. Majority of the time here I'm using 1-point AF to focus, so I can kind of use the joystick to move my focus point around and kind of choose what I want to focus on. But for these shots here I did test out the eye detection AF and it did an amazing job, like even with those cyclists before it just locked on. It was so bright, so it was really interesting to see how the camera was dealing with all the sun flares and everything like that. We were walking into town and we decided to walk via Quayside, which is this little bit by the river here with the colourful houses in the distance. I may have been down here before with another video of mine, but it's always a really lovely spot to visit if you're in Norwich and you're a photographer, or even if you're not a photographer, it's still pretty to look at. You don't need to be holding a camera, who knew? So I'm walking up here and I see this man leaning on the side of the wall, and I decided to kind of snap him up with the colourful houses behind him, seeing if I could use the wall as a bit of leading line. I really like the edit on this. The edits are very subtle on this particular session. I don't like to overwhelm my images too much with these crazy edits. I would like to have a slightly stylized look to them, like more stylized than what I have already. But right now I'm kind of loving the subtle edits. One thing I did notice with editing the R6 files was that the highlight recovery was amazing. You could pull back so many of the highlights, definitely a lot more than with the R. I feel it's got really good dynamic range. The files are lovely. When it's a bit higher in ISO where you'd expect to see some noise, the noise is very subtle and a lot more clean. So we spent a little bit of time on this street called Elm Hill. Obviously it's very beautiful, cobblestones, it's very famous in Norwich. It's even been in a few Netflix programs. It's a famous street, but I decided not to stay in here too long. We just wanted to keep moving. There was this big tour guide that we almost became part of. We fitted right in with our cameras, but I think they were a little bit more advanced than some little point and shoots. It was really refreshing to be in town walking around with Stephen, because it's so much more fun shooting with someone like another photographer. You feel safer, you feel more inspired, and you're more likely to kind of go out and take those more riskier shots, I think. So I saw this couple sitting staring at their phone, and I just quickly stopped here to snap this photo. I love this photo because it's kind of like the digital age. You know, you'd expect that almost from the younger generation, dare I say, but there they are. There was this really cool man approaching. I knew I had to get him. I think I used single point AF again, just popped it straight on him. Love this. I love everything about this photo. It's not even my photography, it's the subject itself. I love it. I was really, really pleased with this one. It was just such like a powerful stance, probably because they were holding the bags, but also the tattoos on their arms looked amazing. What they were wearing looked good. The glasses, the beard, just full on point person. So thank you to whoever you are. You will probably never see this. It wasn't long before we wandered into town, and it was bound to happen because you just capture so many interesting people here. Like this guy, I love the trail of smoke following them, just the stance again, lots of powerful poses going on from people today. I'll just jump right in here now and say hope you're enjoying this video. If you are, be sure to go down below, drop it a like. If you aren't subscribed, then please do make sure to subscribe if you want to see more content, because now I have the R6, I'm going to want to shoot more with it. I will still shoot on the R, and I really need to get out with the Fujifilm X100V again soon. I'm thinking I'm going to head out as soon as possible and shoot on a black and white film simulation. I'll kind of want to see how that challenges me and my photography. Quite often I would see Stephen taking a photo and just feel like I should take a photo of him, because he always uses the articulating screen to get like a really nice low angle on things, and it's always quite interesting to watch his process. So I did document it quite a lot. I was taking a lot of photos. One thing I noticed after editing this and looking through my settings was that I really pushed that shutter speed up very high and kind of kept it there when I could have lowered it in places, and therefore my ISO could have come down. But I think quite often when I'm shooting street photography, I am just looking to see if the exposure is correct on screen, so I'll make the adjustments necessary, but I'm not necessarily looking at them in detail. So I'll know that, like, maybe I'll move that dial, I'll move the shutter speed, I'll move the aperture and get the correct exposure. But I realised that I didn't really take much time to check in with how the settings are sat. So when I was at a high shutter speed earlier, I would have stayed there rather than maybe adjusting to each individual situation. And I feel like that's quite easy to do when you're taking street photography. And I don't think it's a bad thing, because it just means you're in the moment, and as long as your images are exposed and clean, that's fine. And like I said, even in situations where I was pushing that ISO, it was still so clean in the edit. There was no noise, and if there was noise, it was not noticeable. Sorry, I was too busy chatting about settings and not, telling you about this massive dog that we stumbled across. 6 months old. It's a Leonberger, I believe. I made sure to turn on the animal eye detection for this. I think you may have saw me do that a second ago, and it just nailed it every single time. And I took so many photos of that dog and it didn't miss once. Another huge pro of the R6 over the R, which I will quickly mention, especially in regards to street photography, is the sound of the shutter is so quiet. There's no need for silent shutter, therefore you're not going to get any of that warping that I have been struggling with. So massive pro on that. I love these photos here. I kind of love the juxtaposition of like the young and the old. As always in the market, there's so many interesting characters to capture. There's so many nice lighting, so many nice looking stalls. It really is just a playground. So we were shooting at about 4 p.m. So the sun was really starting to kind of lower. It was creating some of this really nice amber golden light, harsh in places, but it meant that we were able to kind of play with some of the shadows. I tried using the car's reflection to the left as a bit of a foreground element. It didn't really work how I wanted it to work. I saw it coming out much better in my mind. So as you can see here, the sun was creating some interesting shadows through the trees onto this building here. And it's actually called Gentleman's Walk, this place in Norwich. And it's a hot spot for lots of photographers because of the nice colour of the stone, the architecture, and the fact that it does get this really interesting light. Obviously it has a lot of footfall too, so I had a lot of fun just capturing different subjects just walking by. I definitely think it's important to stand there and wait if you find a place that you think works for you. If you see something interesting but you think it could get better, then wait, because you'll thank yourself later when you're looking through the photos. I decided to not shoot wide open in regards to aperture for these photos, just because I wanted to capture more of that stone in the background, more of the scene to add context, because I was there because of the background as well. So I didn't want to detract from that and try and, you know, blur out the background with lovely bokeh, which obviously is great, and with an 85mm you're going to get lots of bokeh. That's why I shoot with it, but it's about knowing when to play with your aperture, I think. I love the photos I got of this guy here. Again, I was using single point AF. I wasn't using kind of eye detection. I have no doubt that it would have nailed the focus even more, although I feel like the single AF worked incredibly well as well. So it's all about testing things out. Sometimes it is good to use single point AF, especially with street photography, because you don't always want your camera guessing, because it might choose the wrong subject, you might miss a moment. So I do kind of alternate between the two. For this next shot, I saw a person getting their haircut in the barbershop, and I kind of wanted to use the door frame to frame them. And it came out okay. I wanted it to be a bit more interesting. I tried shooting through the window just to add a couple of layers, but you really couldn't see the barber enough for it to be kind of clear and intentional. It was kind of, it's an okay image, but I wouldn't put it in a photo book. Let's put it that way. It feels really fun to have shot this POV and to also be sitting here talking through my process, kind of living the moment again. I'm currently in a job where I'm having to be creative like pretty much 95% of the time, and it is great. I'm so grateful for that. But it has meant that maybe in my spare time I'm not feeling as creative, but I feel like this is giving me the push that I need. Like, I definitely want to get out there and make sure I'm making time to be creative for me. For this shot I used eye detection, and as you saw, it was so quick. I just put the camera to the right and just kind of trusted that the camera would capture them, and they did. It nailed it. The camera is incredible, and I feel so lucky to finally have it in my possession. We were kind of just walking back at this point. We'd been out for probably about an hour and a half. We were catching up as we hadn't seen each other for a while, so it was really fun to not only get some street photography and some content, but to also catch up with a really, really great friend of mine. I think I'm still using eye detection here, and it just captured the cyclist really well. I'm happy with these shots. I love that the bag is so vibrant. It really makes them stand out. I decided to wait for a vehicle to pass to kind of add a bit more of a background element, and luckily a Norwich bus went by. Not as identifiable as a London red bus, but if you're in Norwich, I feel like you'd recognise that. Well, that is it. That is the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed it. I tried to keep it at a fairly good length. I did a poll on my channel about, the ideal length of a POV, and most people favoured this sort of length. So thank you for watching. I've had a blast. I can't wait to do this again. I'm sorry uploads have been slower, but thank you, and I'll see you soon with another video.